I'd like to use this chart to explain why Bitcoin is worth anything. These are the characteristics of money. And every time I post this chart, I always get asked whether saleable, this one right here, is spelt wrong, whether or not it should be scalable. And in this video, I want to go into why I think salability is one of the most important things in making it so that Bitcoin is worth something. Let's get started. And we'll start with the definition here. Salability refers to the quality of something being capable of being sold or marketable. Synonyms: marketability and salableness. Usage: the term is used to describe how easily or readily something can be sold. Examples: the team initially assess the property and then proceed with a renovation to boost the property's appeal and salability. The way that I see salability is as a combination of all of these characteristics plus the ability to sell it to someone. And we can see here, even though Bitcoin is high on all of these characteristics, on salability, I marked it as moderate because most people don't understand what Bitcoin is. Most people have no idea what it is. They have no idea where it's going. They haven't put in the time to understand what it could do. Most people are still looking at Bitcoin from the perspective of a stock investor or from the perspective of a real estate investor. They have no idea that Bitcoin is money. I came across the concept of salability in this book here, The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammous. Here's a quote from him with a quick explanation. Bitcoin is gaining a monetary role because it combines two properties. Its supply is strictly fixed, giving it great salability across time, and its digital nature allows it to travel very quickly, giving it great salability across space. What he's saying here is that Bitcoin is both portable and scarce. And we can see here portable and scarce are extremely important as characteristics of money because if money is not portable, then you can't move it around. Bitcoin is the only one that gets a high rating for portability because the US dollar is physical. If you want physical dollars, you can have decentralization. Of course, nobody can track your transactions, but you can't send them across the world without trusted third parties. So you need trusted third parties and you need to follow their rules when you want to send your money anywhere in the world. So let's say, for example, you wanted to buy something in Japan and you needed to pay somebody in Japan with a wire transfer as maybe a deposit. You would have to go to your bank during business hours, during business days, which is 8, 9 hours of the day for the entire week, maybe 50, 60 hours. So you have to make sure that you follow the bank's procedures. The bank is only going to be open at a certain time. You have to make sure you go into the bank. You have to pay a fee in order to send that money to other parts of the world. And this entire system makes it so that the US dollar is a little bit less portable. Of course, you can make payments with credit cards, but with credit cards, you have massive fees. With gold, again, nearly impossible to move massive amounts of gold across the world. If you want to pay somebody with a gold coin, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to move, let's say, a ton of gold from one place to another, it's going to take you days or weeks, and it's going to involve a lot of costs because of the security, because of the physical nature of gold. With Bitcoin, you can send it or receive it anywhere in the world without trusted third parties. No matter what happens, you don't have to rely on anybody else in order to send your Bitcoin transaction. With both gold and the US dollar, you have to rely on somebody else because both are physical. If you want to send your gold through the mail, you have to trust a shipping company. You may have to trust airline carrier. You may have to trust all these people in the middle in order to send your transaction anywhere in the world. You can also do something like a tokenized gold. A lot of people talk about that to make gold a little bit more portable. But keep in mind that because gold is physical, you have to keep your gold with a centralized, trusted party. And you have to trust that they're not going to create more gold IOUs than the amount of gold that they have in their vaults. So gold takes a lot of time to send. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of resources. US dollars have solved some of the problems that we have with gold, but now you are forced to use a central party if you ever want to transact. At least with gold, you know that that gold has value in and of itself. With the US dollar, it has no value. So what you're doing is you're trusting a third party with everything when it comes to the US dollar. What Bitcoin does is it takes the best characteristics of both and it combines them to make Bitcoin much more portable. All you need to send Bitcoin is an internet connected device. You can send Bitcoin from anywhere in the world. You can send Bitcoin from outer space if you somehow get internet connection from there. Because Bitcoin is digital and it doesn't have a physical appearance, it doesn't take up any physical space, Bitcoin is the most portable good with value in the entire economy. Everything else that's digital can be copied. Let's say, for example, if I sell you an ebook, you can make multiple copies of that and you can give it to anybody you want to. With Bitcoin, you can't do that. If I send you Bitcoin, there's no way for you to copy that Bitcoin and to create another Bitcoin with the same Bitcoin. So you can't rehypothecate it. Because we have trusted third parties taking care of our bank accounts and our gold, those trusted third parties can take advantage of us. They can tell us that they have a certain amount of gold in their vaults, but in reality, they may not. They may have lent it to other people and they may never get it back. So when you consider all of that, Bitcoin's portability is really important when it comes to money. The next one that Saifuddin Moose mentioned was scarcity. The US dollar is not scarce at all. There's many ways to create more US dollars. You can go to a bank and you can ask them for a mortgage and they'll print fresh dollars and they'll give them to you. Not even print. They'll just press a button on their computers and they'll enter some number in a spreadsheet somewhere and they'll give you that money and you can spend it on whatever you want to. So what happens here is more and more dollars are constantly entering the system, devaluing the previously issued dollars. Over time, we're going to see more and more dollars being added to the financial system because they can be. Why wouldn't anybody take advantage? If you had a mansion and you had the choice of either selling it or borrowing against it, why wouldn't you borrow against it? What you can do is you can keep the mansion while borrowing money that your bank creates out of nothing and you can spend that money on whatever you want in the economy. So you can go and buy food, you can go and buy a car, you can go buy another house. What the US dollar does is it allows the wealthy to keep creating more and more dollars and devaluing the savings of the poor. Scarcity is so important for salability because salability is a way for you to make sure that you'll be able to sell whatever you have in the future. So you take something because of its salability and you want to give something away, and you'll only be able to do this because of its salability. With the US dollar, it's extremely difficult to predict what the value will be, let's say tomorrow or the next day or the day after that. If a merchant accepts US dollars, their goal should be to get rid of them as soon as possible because those US dollars are going to decrease in value forever. And the next one, gold. People are speculating that gold is pretty scarce. They have no idea in reality. They don't know how scarce gold is. They don't know how much gold is being found and added to the economy. There are always going to be estimates, but nobody knows for sure. So with gold, we estimate that 1 to 2% of the supply is being added to the economy. So whatever the supply is, 1 to 2% is being added every single year. These are estimates because if somebody finds gold in their backyard and they don't report it, then you don't know if that's included in the 1 to 2% increase in supply. Because the supply of gold can't be easily confirmed, we don't actually know how much gold exists. We just know that a lot of people value gold because they think it's going to be valuable in the future. But this was only good enough until Bitcoin existed because Bitcoin has a finite supply. We know exactly how much Bitcoin will ever exist. We know exactly how much Bitcoin will be around in 2140, in 2300, in 2500. We know exactly how much Bitcoin will exist forever. There are never, ever, ever going to be more than 21 million Bitcoin. If you were to hold 1 ounce of gold at a inflation rate of 1 to 2%, you're going to see that that value of that 1 ounce of gold is going to have in 35 years. So with Bitcoin, because we know we have that finite supply, we know for a fact that the value is going to go up every few years. More and more people can demand Bitcoin, but the supply of Bitcoin can't increase past 21 million. With gold, we have no idea how much can be taken out of the earth. We have no idea where there are stores of gold. We have gold under the oceans. We can easily get to them if the price goes higher. So I'm assuming if the price of gold goes way too high, let's say it goes to 10,000, 15,000, $20,000 an ounce, at some price of gold, it's going to become profitable to go under the oceans, to destroy the marine life, to destroy all of the ocean floors, and to get to that gold because that's just how it is. That's how the market works. If you can sell something at a profit, you're probably going to do it. So Bitcoin has a finite supply. Gold, we have no idea what the supply is. It's hard to produce more of. It's hard to bring more of it to the surface and to sell it into the market. But over time, we don't know exactly how much gold will exist. We don't know if we'll be able to go to space and get gold, but at some point, I think that will be possible just based on how fast technology is improving. The US dollar, this one is the lowest of the low because the US dollar can be created out of nothing. The US dollar is only scarce for the poor. The rich can create as many US dollars as they want to. So now let's go back to salability. Because Bitcoin is high on scarcity and high on portability, we know that Bitcoin is the best option out of the three. I just realized that I should update the salability for the US dollar because the US dollar isn't as portable as Bitcoin, because it isn't as saleable as Bitcoin. I think this should be a moderate. And the only reason why it's not a low is because the entire world accepts US dollars. The entire world is willing to give you goods and services in exchange $4. Gold also needs to be updated because it's not as portable and scarce as Bitcoin. I think this goes to a moderate as well because the entire world does accept gold. The entire world does see gold as valuable. If you see a gold nugget on the ground, you're probably going to take it and you're probably going to be able to go to any shop and be able to sell that gold for whatever the market price is. And one last thing here, because Bitcoin isn't as well known as the US dollar and gold, it's not as marketable. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because it's important to know that most people don't understand how Bitcoin works yet. Most people have no idea what it is. Because Bitcoin has the best balance of all of the characteristics we need money to have, eventually the world is going to go to a Bitcoin standard. I think at some point the entire world is going to transact in Bitcoin because it's the best form of money to exist. I truly don't think that most people are going to have a choice. They're going to be forced into using Bitcoin, and at some point they're going to be earning Bitcoin from their jobs. But by the time that happens, Bitcoin is going to be 10 million, 20 million, $50 million a coin because everybody's going to want it. Most people have authority bias. They won't take the step of adopting Bitcoin or studying Bitcoin before the people that they idolize will tell them to. So most people who are, let's say, Warren Buffett fans, they're not going to study Bitcoin until either Warren Buffett passes away, his company buys Bitcoin, or he actively says that he's buying Bitcoin himself. But if he does come out and say that, Bitcoin's price is going to be much, much higher than where it is today. So they're missing out on the opportunity to front run Warren Buffett because they're looking for his approval to buy Bitcoin. The best thing that you can do for yourself right now is study Bitcoin, buy some, and put it in cold storage. Put it away so that you can use it when other people want it. Most people have no idea what this thing is yet. They haven't even done an hour of research, and they're not going to do an hour of research. They're just going to be forced into Bitcoin, just like they're forced into every other part of their lives. Most people have no idea why they buy houses. They just buy them because that's the thing that everybody else does. Most people don't know why they buy the expensive car. They do it because that's what everybody else is doing. They take on more and more debt than they should because they just do what everybody else does and they follow in their footsteps. They're doing the same thing with Bitcoin. They're doing the exact same thing. They're ignoring it because they don't want to put in the time to learn about it. Bitcoin is a test of everything that you believe when it comes to money. Think about it. We spend all of our time, energy, resources getting more money so that we can get more time, energy, and resources. Most people are going to stay in this rat race, this hamster wheel, whatever you want to call it, because they're not going to put in the time to study Bitcoin. They're going to keep working the rest of their lives for money, but they're never going to spend the time understanding what money really is. So study Bitcoin, put in the time, understand what Bitcoin is before the world figures out what Bitcoin is, before it becomes the most saleable asset in the world. More and more people are figuring out how Bitcoin works every single day. They're offering goods and services in Bitcoin. And over time, when enough people figure it out, this is going to go to a high. And when people figure out how Bitcoin works, what happens? They figure out that the US dollar is a scam. So this is going to go to low. As fewer and fewer people accept US dollars for their goods and services, more and more of them will want Bitcoin because it's the best way to settle transactions. But until more people study Bitcoin, we're going to see that the US dollar is going to continue to be the widely accepted medium of exchange, and Bitcoin isn't accepted at most places. Don't wait to study Bitcoin until every merchant around you is accepting it. By then, like I said, it's going to be worth millions of dollars. If you're waiting until then, you're going to lose out on this opportunity that you have to get to 0.1, 0.01, or even one whole Bitcoin. Put in the time to study now so that you're not regretting it later.